Hi, Jesse Williams, Harvesting Specialist with Case IH. Today we're going to look at our residue spreading package on our Flagship combine. This is our standard residue package that comes standard on these machines with the vertical disc spreaders. The other residue package that we offer on these machines is going to be the dual disc spreader. So very similar to what we run on our mid-range machines, where we have the two discs mounted back here that will spread that material. That system's kind of designed for rice machines to handle the heavier, wet material coming out the back of the machine. It works very well in corn and beans. I've seen it out in wheat harvest some. Very simple system, simple to adjust, and works well. This system here also works very well if you go through and make the adjustments. It's got a lot more versatility with it. It's got a lot more adjustability with it. So we'll take a look at a few of the features of this system. One of the features of this system that you get is you get the windrow door in the back here. So we can open that windrow door up. When I open that windrow door up but leave my spreaders down, I'm going to take that material coming off the back of my rotor and I'm going to put it into the windrow while I'm going to spread the material coming off my sieves down here. Now that's nice for a couple of reasons. If we're baling straw, it allows me to take my straw, put it in a windrow, spread that lighter chaff out to the side, and that's going to give me better material to pick up with my baler. The other thing we can do with this is we can use it as a diagnostics tool. If we've got some loss, we're trying to narrow down whether it's rotor or sieve loss, I can open this door here, windrow my material coming off the rotor, spread my material coming off the sieves, and I can isolate that loss between the windrow and the material that's spread out to the side. So when we look at this standard spreader system, we'll take a look first. There is a divider that mounts up underneath here on model year 16 and newer, or any machine that has been upgraded to the new style divider. All of our adjustments for the most part are going to be done down there on that divider. Now that divider has two positions that it can be mounted in. It's got an upper and a lower. There's 6 bolts, so there's 2 bolts here, there's 2 back here, and there's 2 hidden up here in the top. And if we want to move that to the upper position, we have to take the top 4 bolts out. We have to loosen the bottom bolts. We have to slide that up, put the upper 4 bolts back in, and tighten everything back down. What that will do for us, we'll pull our spreader up so that we can see that divider here. But when we raise that divider up, it's going to decrease the clearance between the tip of this spreader paddle and this concave underneath. By decreasing that clearance, I get more of an air blast. I get better traction on that crop material. I'm able to throw that material out there better. So typically for small grains, for soybeans, we want to run with that in its upper position. That way we can throw that material out there for those wider 40, 45 foot heads. Even with the narrower heads, we see that we get a lot better distribution of that material out the back of the machine. Now, when we're setting this up, if we're doing small grains or we're doing soybeans, the way I typically start is going to be like this divider is sitting here right now. Now, this divider has got 3 adjustments on it. It's got a left concave, a right concave that I can open and close, and then it's got a center adjustment. That center adjustment is going to change my gap right in here. It changes how much material we throw directly down in the center of that machine in the back. So if you're seeing some windrowing, you want to close this center section up to help throw that material out to the side. Now I'm going to start in small grains or beans with the center section closed all the way and both of these concaves closed all the way. So I'm basically closing everything all the way on the back of this machine. I'm going to get in the cab, I'm going to run my machine, and I'm going to adjust my speed of my spreaders to get my windrow the width of my header cut. Now if I've got a smaller header on the front of the machine, I'm in a tough crop like green stem beans, I want to make sure I keep some spreader speed back here. I don't want to drop that speed too low if I'm running like a 30-foot head. I want to keep that spreader speed up so that I throw that material out and I get it out the back of the machine. I don't want to slow it down to the point where I can't pull it out the back of the machine and I risk plugging up the back of the machine. So for us here, we have a 30-foot head, I'm probably going to come back here and I'm going to bring these back a notch or two. That's going to help narrow that spread width up without having to slow that spreader down too low. The other thing I can do is I can open both my left and right up just a little bit if I see that I'm overspreading on both sides. So once I've run it, I've got my spread width set. I'm going to come back here and I'm going to look behind my machine on the ground. If I look on the ground and I see that I've got a gap in that residue in the center, I'm throwing everything to the outside, I'm leaving a gap in the center, what I will do is then I will open this center section up here. Throw a little bit of material down in the center and I'll open that until I fill that gap in the center. Now this machine has got in-cab adjust, so I've got the 3 electric actuators down here. I've got the rocker switches in the cab that I can adjust from the cab. The other option with this system is going to be the manual adjust. So with manual adjust, we're going to have the turnbuckle down here. It's got the handle that we can crank and adjust that left and right concave under the spreader. You also have a turnbuckle that mounts kind of in the center, another handle like this. You can use that to open and close that center section. And a lot of customers don't realize that adjustment's there. It's kind of hidden on the front of that divider, but they can adjust that there. Now when we go to corn, we want to make those adjustments kind of opposite of what we did for our small grains and for our soybeans. So when we go to corn, we want to open that up. We're dealing with large residue, shucks, cobs. That material needs to have a little bit of room to flow through the back of the machine. And what I run into a lot of times is customers get it set for their small grains, they get it set for their soybeans, they go to corn and the only thing they do is slow the spreader down to the minimum speed that they can and get it to go into corn. It will pop up on the display when you put the corn head on there. It'll tell you to slow the spreader down below 400 RPMs. So I go to the field a lot of times, I see that spreader is running 380, 390, 400 RPMs in corn. And you don't need that much speed. You don't need all this closed up. What you will see if you run with this at high speed with everything closed up in corn is you will windrow all those shucks on the outside of the tires. You'll have no shucks in the middle. You'll have some out at the outside, but you'll see a noticeable windrow outside of the tire down the field. So what we want to do when we go to corn is we want to take this center section here and we want to open it wide open. Then we want to take our 2 sides here and we want to open them about halfway. I want to have at least enough room to slide a cob between this concave and this spreader paddle. So there's plenty of room to get those cobs out the back. By opening this all the way up, it allows some of those shucks to flow down in the center. And what you will see is you'll get a really even residue spread of those cobs and those shucks out the back of the machine. Now, as far as speed goes in corn, I found you can run pretty slow. So we're only running an 8-row corn head on the front of this machine. I run this spreader speed just as slow as it'll go. I'm still throwing cobs out past the edge of the head. I'm getting my shucks spread the full width of the header. Now, if you go to a 12-row, you may have to bump that speed up a little bit, but don't typically see that you've got to get up close to that 400 RPM. So I'm going to jump in the cab quick. We will open these up to where we typically run them for corn and let you take a look at that. So as you can see, I have opened the center section here all the way up. That's going to allow that material to flow down through there, get the shucks down through there, and I've opened these about halfway. So if I look, there's the tip of my spreader there. Got plenty of clearance in here for a cob to flow through. So I'm not going to sit there like I would if I had this closed all the way down and the speed cranked all the way up and jam those cobs through this assembly where I'm going to wear it out prematurely. So I've had really good luck with those settings. I updated this 8230 3 seasons ago to the new style divider. Have never had to replace or repair anything on that divider just by using those adjustments there. Now, if you've got an older machine, you got an 8010, you got an 8120, you got that rotted finger design on there, or you've got a 30 series with the divider that had the adjustable center and the adjustable chutes, we do offer kits to update to this style divider. There's a kit through parts that will give you the manual turnbuckles on that divider that you can drop that rotted finger assembly off. You can bolt that up and really increase the performance of that residue distribution on those older machines. Okay, we're in the cab of our 8230 now. We're taking a look at the residue control. This machine has got the in-cab residue adjustment. So with that, I've got my rocker switches on the right-hand armrest over here. So I've got my right-hand control that's going to control that right-hand concave underneath my spreader, change how far I throw the material to the right-hand side. I've got my left-hand control over here that's going to change that left-hand concave. I've got my center distribution here, so that's changing how much we're throwing down in the center with that center adjustment that I showed on the back of the machine. And then I've got my spreader speed over here. Now, any of the new cab machines, the common cab machines we call them, so model year 13 and newer with common cab, you can upgrade to in-cab residue control. It's a matter of putting the actuators and the wiring harness on the back of the machine, uncovering these switches in here, and then turning on the configuration. And that's pretty nice because now we can adjust that residue from the cab, and if we've got a crosswind, I can adjust my residue to compensate for that crosswind. So I've set up one of my run tabs here to kind of show what we're looking at with the residue control. This is going to show me, so there's my center section right there at the top. It's called spread distribution, and right now I'm opened all the way up where we had made that change for corn. So I'm going to adjust it like I would for beans, where I'm going to close that all the way down to get that material to throw out the side of the machine. I got my left spread width, so that's going to be that concave under the left-hand side of the spreader on that divider back there, and I've got my right is going to be the concave on the right-hand side back there. I've also got a spread set point, so with that I can set presets. I can set a left, a center, and a right. So for the center, a lot of times what I do is I will adjust that for like doing my headlands, where I'm throwing pretty uniform out both sides of the machine. And then if I've got a crosswind, that's when I can adjust my left and my right. So you can see I obviously had an adjustment in there in the past for the left. So still a lot of times if we're in beans, we're going to keep that spread distribution all the way at its max or close to it. We're going to have that adjusted so that we're not leaving that windrow down the center of the machine. But in this situation here, let's say the wind is blowing from the left-hand side of the machine. So I'm going to keep the left hand closed up to blow it into the wind. I'm going to open the right-hand side up so that I'm not throwing it into my standing crop. Now when I turn on the in, I'm going to change that, and I'm going to adjust it to have the wind coming from the other direction. So I'm going to keep my spread distribution close to that max for my soybeans, and you can see now I've got my left hand around 50% to keep it from blowing into the standing crop. I've got my right hand all the way closed to push it into the wind, and now the next time I turn, when I press that, it's going to alternate that left and right for me. Now you can set this up in a run screen. You can also see your spread distribution if we come into Combine Info. I can come in here, I can see my left, my right, and my spread distribution in here. Now I typically set this up on one of my run screens when I'm doing beans. So you can see in here I have a corn and a bean layout. So we'll go to my bean layout, go to my run 1. And in my run 1, I've got my spread set point in here. I got my left, center, and right. And this is kind of my typical run 1 that I use when I'm in soybeans. Shows me my engine load, my header height, my engine speed, rotor speed, fan speed, dry yield, moisture, and then my loss columns across the back. So this allows me, when I turn on the in, to select that and alternate them. Now, anytime we make an adjustment with those rocker switches on the armrest, it's going to pop up and show me what my position is on that residue. Just keep in mind that whatever preset we have highlighted, we're changing it for that preset.